I've always loved Transformers. As a bloke in his 40s, I'm part of the lucky generation that grew up in the late 80s when the show was more than a cartoon. It was an obsession. Optimus, Bumblebee, Soundwave, Starscream. I had the lot, toy wise. Now, I was always a Decepticon lad. Jets, guns, robotic panthers. They were everything a young boy found cool. The only thing that could compete were the Dinobots because, well, they're robot dinosaurs. It's not rocket science as to why that is it? But that nostalgia's always stuck with me. I've bought the 1986 movie on every format known to man. VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I've even got the soundtrack on CD. I own and have played all the War for Cybertron 360 games. And yes, I can even admit Series 3 was a bit of a car crash that shouldn't have existed, with the Bay movies also being guilty pleasures, best watched with your brain switched off. But for the years, it was just my little hobby. I never thought my kids would get it until Transformers 1 was released. Seeing the prequel with my eldest, seeing him get that same spark I had 30 odd years ago, it brought all that back to the surface. It pushed me to find a way to bring that nostalgia to my other big love, which is, of course, board games. So, I dove headfirst into the Transformers, the deck building game. I didn't just buy the base set, I went full me and grabbed every expansion available. And now, after several weekends at the table and far too much energy on, I want to give my thoughts on this entire collection as a whole. Now, Transformers core gameplay is kind of in the title. This is a straight up deck building game. You start with 10 starter cards, draw 5 each round, and are able to improve your deck by spending power to accrue new cards as the game goes on. It's standard deck building gameplay, but the difference here is the matrix of cards. A row of 12 face-down cards set in a 4x3 formation that you have to uncover by spending movement points and reaching by moving the standee of your chosen bot around the matrix. This one change adds not only a timer to the entire game, as once the main deck you're constantly adding to the matrix runs out, you lose, but it also grants you some great tension as you have no idea what's in this deck you're drawing from. Yes, you sorted out a massive amount of cards before starting the game, but you only choose a random 40 that has 3 bosses inside of it. At any point, hell can break loose that you might not be able to deal with, forcing you to constantly change plans by running around the board hoping you find useful cards and not more enemies. If you get overwhelmed and receive 5 damage, it's game over yet again. And that tension is what I absolutely love with this one. The gameplay loop of exploring the grid, drawing cards so randomly that you never know what you're going to get, buying upgrades with a simple power system that also works as your combat, and fighting well-known enemy bots, some of which are top villains who are bosses from the canon, is amazing. It's simple but satisfyingly strategic, especially in solo. The way cards interact with movement, transformation, and combat can feel quite novel compared to more traditional deck builders on the market, especially when the main aspect of the game is a boss battler where you win by taking out 3 bosses who improve with your deck's quality. The card art and overall production values are another massive positive for me. The art is very comic book style more than the animated series, but the Transformers we all know and love are beautifully drawn and showcased amazingly. I love the art on the cards, and I especially love the 2-sided large character versions showing their bot side and transformed vehicle side. The character standees are great to move around the board. They didn't cheap out and just make it a boring plain meeple. They really went the extra mile and created something unique for us fans, making you feel like you're chosen bot with individual powers that require Energon to use. They even gave us Energon cubes, much like the TV show, so I have to give them a lot of praise for that. My last bit of praise is the customization aspect. This one has solo, co-op, and versus modes, and all the characters every fan of the franchise should recognise over all the expansions, meaning replayability here is massive. Autobots, Dinobots, Decepticons, movie bots, which were the second generation, and combiners. Everyone is here ready to brawl like it's the fall of Cybertron. You can tailor the main deck to include whatever cards from every expansion you like. Want to play first gen characters? You can. Want to go for more of a movie tie-in? You can. Do you want just Dinobots on Dino Island? Guess what? You can do it. You can customize this one however you like, and that needs to be praised. But it is also part of my biggest complaint, as those expansions, if you don't get them second hand or in a bundle, are blooming expensive. You have the base game that is just Autobots, and it's fine. If you're an 80s Autobot fan, you love Optimus, Bumblebee, RC, Wheeljack, Ratchet, and Ironhide. All the alloys and relics are very Gen 1 based, like the Wikis, and it is a decent box set for you if you want to just play the deck building game a few times, where you can play as Optimus or Bumblebee and take down the mainline Decepticons like Starscream and Megatron. It's by far the best experience for getting the TV show on the table and reliving your childhood, and is by far the cheapest box to buy, as you can pick this up for 18 to 25 quid second hand, sometimes even cheaper. You will probably want Dawn of the Dinobots to go alongside it as a companion piece though, as this is mostly all the Dinobots and the Devastator Combiner, which looks absolutely amazing by the way, and is a cracking centerpiece as it's huge and has new rules introduced where you have to use Energon to combine and then consume Energon to stay in combined mode, but you do get a decent bonus to do so. I absolutely love this expansion, and I believe every Gen 1 fan would want it. The Dinobots are mostly all here, only one really is missing, which we will talk about in a bit. But both you and maybe even friends could combine both the base set and Dinobots to fight alongside and take down Decepticons. If you want the ultimate TV show tie-in game, this expansion is all you really need. But if you're like me, and you're a Decepticon at heart, you want to play as Megatron and Starscream, you want to change history and have the Decepticons reign supreme like they really should, well, you will need Rise of Darkness, which is basically the base game, but reversed. This is all the Decepticons and their allies, with new relics to collect, and it's by far my personal favourite and go-to way to play. There's something great about reliving my childhood in card form, battering the Autobots or Dinobots and making Starscream reign supreme. You can, if you just love the Decepticons, buy this one box and be done. It is a totally separate core box. If you only want Decepticons, this is all you need. You can have tons of fun playing this like I have, destroying Bumblebee and Optimus. But if you want to play the versus mode where you can play against friends as both sides, you will need both cores, which is the main Autobot one, and Rise of Darkness. Or, if you don't want to buy those two boxes to just play co-op or versus games with friends, because it's a little bit too expensive to do so, you need to buy War for Cybertron. Now this is the third core box and is slightly different to the other two because it features not only a new game mechanic with debris, something that is damaging to all bots and stays on the board until you destroy it. not my favourite mechanic and something I tend not to use in my solo games, as I do feel it spoils the fun of the game a lot. But the game also features both Autobots and Decepticon characters for you to play in this one box. Now, I will say it's very restricted. There's only really a new Optimus and Megatron that's really worth it here. Hot Rod is featured, but let's face it, Teemo Optimus isn't great, is he? Sorry, but I've never liked him or the second gen characters. The movie is still a sore spot for me all these years later, even if it is quite fun in parts and very adult. But if you just want to play this game with friends and you just want a taste of the versus gameplay for a bit of a low cost to dip your toe in, I would really recommend War for Cybertron as your starting point. You just have to know that none of the Gen 1 characters are playable here. They are all locked behind the other 2 core boxes and Dinobot expansion. So you really need to know what you want going into this before you think about buying. Solo wise only though, I do really recommend the Chaos Unleashed expansion, as that gives you not only the perfect movie tie-in expansion with a giant boss in Unicron to take down before he consumes all the planets in the Matrix, but it also gives you all the movie characters if you desire them. I've not played any of them as I refuse outright due to spite, but they are there, and the gameplay change where it changes now into a full-on boss battler against a mega boss is absolutely amazing. By far, this is the expansion you need for a great solo or co-op change-up from the base game. Building up your deck, moving around the board, and watching Unicron eat planets is actually something else. I couldn't wait to take him out, and believe me, he is actually tough. I've had many hard-fought wins and losses against him, so get this when you're done with the core gameplay loop and need something different. I really do recommend it. There are 2 expansions I'm not bothered about though, and have basically ditched them for now. The first is Clash of the Combiners, which adds all the other combiners to the game, but I'm pretty much a Devastator only kind of guy, so when I want combiner gameplay, I will always choose him. The box overall doesn't really add much. I got it to complete the collection and add a bit more random card chance if anything. It's not essential, and by its second from last, if at all. Just know that it adds very little to the game, but different combiners, so if you like those, you will want it, I suppose. Infiltration Protocol, on the other hand, is truly rubbish for me. It's supposed to add a new gameplay mechanic for one of the core boxes where you get missions to complete in a set order and change the basic defeat enemies only gameplay loop. My issue is that the main deck has to be changed to basically a set deck to get the most out of it, and it's so fiddly to do so. Seriously, I had to set the deck up the night before just so I was ready to play this version the next day. Yes, there are 2 sets of infiltration schemes, one for Autobots and Decepticon core boxes, but once I had played through them both once and completed them, I never felt the desire to go back to either. It's supposed to add something for solo players, especially to chase during the game, much akin to the Rebirth variant of DC Deckbuilding game, but it never felt fun for me as you're already on a race during the base game, and adding extra layers to the gameplay where you have to complete certain goals just added extra faff for me. Faff I didn't enjoy, but the characters here are great and needed, so you will have to get this one eventually just to complete your nostalgia bait collection, especially the bonus pack, which I'm absolutely desperate for. More on that later, but overall I don't play this variant anymore. It is essentially wasted space in my storage box. But as you can tell, each of these expansions adds something new and different to the experience along with a host of characters. But they are very expensive when buying them brand new at £30 to £45. So you need to be a super fan to realistically get everything, or hope you drop lucky and get a second-hand collection for a great price like I managed to, because I've got more jam than Hartley's. Honestly, if you're starting from fresh, for me, War for Cybertron and Chaos Unleashed would be my perfect recommendations for solo players. Add in the base game and Rise of Darkness in the future for those great characters we all love, along with the Dinobots. But one thing I hate is knowing that some characters are hidden behind exclusive bonus packs, which are now impossible to buy. My second-hand copy came with Jazz, but he's a bonus character. Snarl and Razorclaw are locked behind an impossible-to-find bonus pack, same as Windblade. Ultra Magnus and Skywarp, my second favourite Decepticon, are also locked behind the Infiltration Protocol bonus pack. And these are all major characters who should just exist in the base games, and it angers me that I'll never be able to play as them. These sets seem to be available in America, but can still be costly. Over here in England, I basically have no chance. They were already rare for us, and I can't even find a way of importing them for the right price. It sucks. It's FOMO, and I hate FOMO because if you're a late adopter to the system, you're basically shit out of luck. I hate it with CMON, and I especially hate it with card games like this. There's no need for it. You're basically destroying fans and collectors' hopes and dreams because they didn't buy it in a certain time frame. Others, though, who can look past the collector's issues, might find the randomness of the game's matrix disappointing, as you can't properly formulate a deck build and have to make do with whatever you uncover. The randomness, especially with the main deck composition, isn't tightly controlled, meaning experiences can swing quite wildly, sometimes slowing the game down or making certain characters less effective, depending on what cards appear in the matrix. I personally have had games where all my Autobot and Decepticon allies appear, and games where I've only had enemies. I've even had games where I've uncovered the first boss on my first card flip. You can get destroyed early and find you haven't got enough power to really get your deck going. And you will have to just chalk those games up to bad luck, wipe the board and start again. I'm sure some would argue that the rulebook is also a bit of a mess. I tried to play my first game using it, but it was all over the place, with some rules and wording being very vague. I just popped on YouTube and watched a learn how to play it properly, downloading a custom main deck build guide off BGG so I could customize my game how I wanted, as the description in the rulebook for customizing your main deck is a very naff. Overall, though, I still have a ton of fun with this one every time I break it out. Yes, I do sort out my main decks now the night before playing, as that takes a little bit of time, which is unlike other deck builders. You can't just crack this one open and get playing straight away. You have to take that time to set it up. And I have to be deeply honest, your enjoyment of this one comes mainly from your love of the franchise. Ask yourself, do you love Gen 1 Transformers? If you do, the game's IP will do a lot of heavy lifting for you. There's no other Transformers game out there that lets you finally turn Starscream into the ultimate badass Autobot killing king I wanted him to be in my heart. Solo-wise, it is a great boss hunting and battling deck builder. You can have hours of fun as you get a different experience every game. And with all the expansions slapped on top, if you can afford them, you suddenly have a boatload of characters to experience from both sides in all shapes and sizes. I really recommend this one as a huge fan of the series. But if you're someone who only has a passing like for the franchise, I really don't recommend this one for solo play only, as you're experiencing 1/3 of the overall experience. The core gameplay, whilst different and fun, is probably too random for casual audiences to enjoy. Regardless though, let me know your favourite Autobot or Decepticon in the comments, and thanks for watching.